Well, in less than a week, the state of Indiana will execute Joseph Corcoran. He'll be the first prisoner to die at the hands of the state since 2009. But unlike federal executions, Indiana will not allow media to witness and document theirs. As Ethan Sandweiss reports, state lawmakers and press organizations are voicing their objections.
A jury convicted Corcoran of killing 4 people in the late 90s. Indiana Criminal Code permits only certain people to attend his execution, including the warden, physicians, a chaplain and spiritual advisor, the victims' families, people assisting in the execution, and up to 5 people invited by the convicted person, but no press.
How else does the public even know? It's a semi-secret, private ritual. And not to have the media there, I think, is a huge failing.
The Department of Corrections told media to assemble in a limited space area near the prison without restroom access. It added in an email that no media briefings or interviews will be conducted. Instead, a single update is scheduled by email after the execution is completed.
I covered the Timothy McVeigh execution years ago, obviously, at the federal penitentiary, and that was all set up. They just really don't seem to want to provide any information to the public.
Indiana is one of only 2 states to bar press from executions. The other is Wyoming, which hasn't had an execution in over 30 years. It's been 15 years since Indiana put its last prisoner to death, Matthew Wrinkles.
The state wasn't able to obtain drugs to carry out lethal injection for that period of time.
Green represented Wrinkles in 2009, and she's now working on Corcoran's appeals. There's a lot that can go wrong during an execution, and Green says that's why it's important to have independent media witnesses.
Nationally, we have had botched executions, and there should be an objective person there to report to the public on what has happened during an execution.
Indiana used a 3-drug cocktail to kill Wrinkles, but the difficulty of obtaining those legally made it opt for a single drug this time.
This is the first time we're using pentobarbital, so we're kind of unclear what to expect in terms of what, the person being put to death will go through.
The anti-seizure medication pentobarbital, used for federal executions in Terre Haute, is slower acting and has been linked to a condition that causes the lungs to fill with blood. Media witnesses in Terre Haute reported that Alfred Bourgeois took almost half an hour to die in 2020. Citing a 2017 secrecy law, Governor Holcomb declined to share where the state purchased the drug.
If they're not allowed to be in the room to let the public know what is happening, you have to ask, should we be doing it at all?
Yoder isn't the first state lawmaker to object. Republican State Representative Bob Morris asked Governor Holcomb to stay Corcoran's execution and filed a bill to abolish the death penalty. Democratic Representative Matt Pierce opposes capital punishment, but says it should be done transparently, if at all.
If the state is going to execute people in the name of the people, then the people should be able to see what the state is doing.
Indiana's execution witness law is explicit on who can attend. Unless the legislature amends that law, it's not clear there's much reporters or even the governor can do. But Kelly says the state should be transparent when it can.
To be honest, this entire situation, since it came up in the summer that we were going to resume executions, has been just a closed process. The Department of Correction has refused to release basic information.
Corcoran's execution is scheduled before sunrise next Wednesday. For Indiana News Desk, I'm Ethan Sandweiss.
And we're joined now by our George Hale, who covers the death penalty, has witnessed several federal executions. Thanks for coming on the show, George. So where's the case stand now? We've seen a number of filings about his mental health.
Yeah, so Joseph Corcoran suffers from paranoid schizophrenia, and so his attorneys are arguing that he's incompetent to be executed. So far, the Indiana Supreme Court has rejected those claims, and so now the case is in the federal courts, and so we're sort of waiting to see what they decide.
Yeah, so there's also a new lawsuit in federal court about his access to a spiritual advisor. Can you kind of explain both sides of that argument?
Yeah, so, from the prisoner's perspective, the spiritual advisor is very important because it's sort of the one person who's in the room with your interests in mind. Everyone else is, trying to execute you. And so, having prayer or, just access to, a friendly face is, kind of important. The state argues, that having a stranger in the room threatens the whole process because they could disrupt it. They could, reveal the identities of executioners and things like that. So, the court will have to sort of take both sides into consideration.
And, I understand similar lawsuits have served to delay executions. Is that what they're trying to do here? And do you think it will be delayed?
So I do think it's an important challenge because of that reason, because it has worked in the past in other states. What's interesting, though, is that yesterday the Indiana Corrections Department withdrew their position on whether or not the spiritual advisor could be in the room, seeming to recognize that possibility. So I wouldn't be surprised if this suit actually gets tossed out soon.
Okay. And are you headed up too?
Yeah, we'll be there on Tuesday.
All right. Well, looking forward to your reporting, and thank you so much.
Yeah,
Appreciate
thanks.
it.